But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational. Nobody talks like this. They live in a complete alternate universe.
A 22-year-old Utah local confessed Friday morning to fatally shooting conservative activist Charlie Kirk, officials said. Robinson was turned in after his father recognized him in photos released by the FBI, and his son admitted he was the gunman. Robinson's father asked him to turn himself in, but his son replied that he would rather kill himself. The father then convinced his son to speak with their youth minister, who called the FBI, and agents later took Robinson into custody. Other pictures of the suspected killer that have emerged also feel almost chillingly normal, sharing a meal with his dad, grinning while riding in what appears to be a small plane, and seemingly enjoying a happy family life. The only photos which really stand out include one in which he appears to be dressed for Halloween in a Trump costume, and a number of others that point to an interest in various types of weapons. But how this young man went from this to this still remains a mystery.
Now, I'm sure by now that you all have heard about the news concerning Charlie Kirk. And I wanted to take my time before I made this video because I wanted to make sure that I got all of the facts straight about what had transpired. I've seen a lot of people that were making content that were trying to be the first to push it out, but really was, not really getting all of the information correct. So I just wanted to take my time. I thought that'd be better for you all to make sure we get the facts lined out. And with that being said, I think that's important because the irony of this case is why I wanted to make this video. It's just so much irony surrounding this whole incident. And for starters, I just want to address what he did. As far as spreading the misinformation that he had done. And what I want to do now is I want to play this clip for starters so we can all just walk through some of the things that I'm going to be referring to later on in this video. So let's check this out and we'll get back to it.
Half of murders in Chicago get solved.
Right, but are they all black people though?
Almost all of them, yeah. Like 80,
well,
80.
If they're not solved, how do we know that they're black people?
Well, because it's a black victim in a black neighborhood by a black gang. So it's like you can assume.
So now, if you heard that, listen to what he said. He started out. He said that half of the crime that was committed in Chicago that were caused by black people. And then he went on to say, well, that half of the crimes are not solved as well. So like the gentleman stated, well, how do you know that they were black? If they're not solved, how do you know who the perpetrator is? You're spreading this misinformation and you don't even have a clue of actually who caused it. Just like in his case, when that happened to him, nobody knew exactly who did it. That's why you need the facts. But he's spreading this misinformation. So let's finish up and see what they got. Let's see what they're going to say.
A great approximation that in the west side of Chicago,
50% of the murders in Chicago that go unsolved are all black people.
Not all. No, I said 85%. But we don't know who the perp is. But again, if you have a black victim at 2 a.m. in a black neighborhood, it's reasonable to say that it was a black on black crime. 90% of murders after 2 a.m. in Chicago are black on black crimes. I'm from Chicago.
Right. So listen to that. For starters, he completely fumbled that whole discussion. He started off, he said half of the murders, which would mean 50%. Then he went on to say, no, I said 85%. So just pay attention to what he was doing. But anyway, that's the misinformation that I'm talking about. He admitted like this is an assumption.
Like you can assume that
this is not based on facts. That was literally an assumption. He was saying that half of the crime that goes on in Chicago, or half the murders that goes on in Chicago, don't even get solved. But at the same time, he's trying to say that, that the crime that's occurring in Chicago stems from black people. How did you come up with that? Your numbers are completely screwed with that. So, but this is what he do. He spread misinformation. And, so that was the irony of his whole platform in the first place. Like nobody really understood. Like he would talk so fast, but if you sit there and you think about it, like, man, you're lying. That was a total lie, and he knew that, but he knew that those people didn't know that, so he could just say whatever and they'll believe him. That's what he built his platform off of: misinformation, spewing things about the black community. And at the end of the day, once again, like the man asked him, "Well, how do you know that they were black?" "Oh, well, it's a black neighborhood, black crime, black gang." How do you know it was? How do you know the person was even in a gang? So what does that mean? All black people are in gangs? No, that's that's preposterous, to say the least. But yeah. So with that being said, there were other different things about him as well that stood out to me, and I just think that it's ironic that he, one of the last things that he was saying before he was killed. He was trying to spew this same sort of misinformation. A person asked him a question. They asked him, they was asking about the mass shootings that go on. He went on to say, well, you talking about gang violence? And literally his last two words that came out of his mouth was gang violence. Now you're in Utah. I don't even know what relevance that had to the people in Utah, but he brought up gang violence. And then unfortunately, as he said that, he was struck by a bullet, and now there wasn't no gang member who did that. See, had he paid attention to the question, he would have realized the threat was in front of him the whole time, because it was some young white kid who did that. The irony of all of that is just crazy. That's why I wanted to make this video, because that's just ironic. That literally your whole point was to try to deflect from where the attention should be, and you took it to gang violence. And anytime he mentioned gang violence, he was referring to the black community. Because, as you can see, if a crime occurred in a black neighborhood, oh, there must be a black gang member by his account, right? And I just think that's just ironic, right? And so the other thing that I think is ironic is that a lot of people believe that because what has occurred to him, that we all should be mourning. And don't get me wrong, I do not condone violence. I do not condone violence. I want to say that clear. And I'm not celebrating his demise whatsoever. Like, I think it's very unfortunate what happened to him. I'm a person, I like to debate. I would have loved to be in a position where I could have debated him, especially on these particular topics, because I knew that he was spewing misinformation. However, but when it goes back to sympathy, well, here, I'll tell you what. I'm going to play this other clip.
You need to be very clear that you're not going to get gun deaths to zero. It will not happen. Right. You can significantly reduce them through having more fathers in the home, yes, by having more armed guards in front of schools.
He would talk about that a lot. You heard he say fathers in the home. Now, he would mention that a lot. And you know what's so coincidental? The guy that they have apprehended right now, the irony, the guy who allegedly had shot him, guess what? He grew up with his father in his home. And guess what his father was? A retired sheriff. The irony. Like, that's why I wanted to make this video. It's the irony, the complete irony of this whole case is just mind-boggling. But yeah, so, that's not the only issue. Not to say that it's not an issue. Yes, I think fathers should be in home with their kids. But however, that's not, he advocated that and he tried to, play on that. But once again, how ironic is it that if this person who did that to him was not only not a black gang member, but a white young man who grew up in the house with both his parents, and one of them is in law enforcement. The irony of that. So let's listen to the rest of this, though.
We should have an honest and clear reductionist view of gun violence, but we should not have a utopian one. You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational. Nobody talks like this. They live in a complete alternate universe.
Wow. Wow. I mean, if you listen to what he just said, well, you know, I mean, hey, you know, it's okay, you know, we get a couple lives lost, you know, just to be able to protect our Second Amendment right. The irony of that. Now, I'm sure I mean, if he could take back those words, I would think that he would, considering that, yeah. So do you think that about your life? That it was worth you giving up your life so other people could have their Second Amendment right? Now, I'm all for people being able to carry their firearms. Please don't get that misconstrued. But what I'm saying is the irony of that. The irony of that. Like, and I'm sure that a lot of the things that he spewed, he never thought that it was going to come back on him. See, that's the audacity of with a lot of the things that he said as well. And, you know, like I said, I mean, there's just so much irony with that. Now, I did say that I wanted to play that clip about what he had to say in reference to empathy. Like he said it himself that he thinks empathy is a made up word. He thinks it's just all made up. And I mean, once again, like I say, I mean, just the irony of this whole thing. I mean, and so we're going to play this clip right now, and I want you to see that as well.
I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage. But
as you can see, the irony. And once again, like I said, that's why I wanted to make this video. You know, I did want to bring up just my opinion and my take on this, because a lot of people, you know, it is unfortunate what has transpired with him. Because I mean, and you know, I don't think it's right for anybody to celebrate what's going on with him. I mean, I want to be clear with that. Like that's not me at all. But you definitely snare by the words of your mouth. You know, I'm all about having freedom of speech, but we do not have the freedom of consequences. We have to, you know, you reap what you sow. You know, if I go out and I say the wrong thing to the wrong person, there's a high probability that something is going to happen to me. You know, despite, you know, and having the freedom of speech is a freedom in itself. But at the same time, you also have to be careful of who you're talking to. Who you're talking to. Like, people get that part misconstrued and think like you have to have some sort of crazy perspective on life to think that you could just go around, do and say whatever it is that you want and not face any consequences. I think that's important. I think that's important, because won't he do it? Won't he do it? That's just extreme. And so we need to reflect back on that while we're taking the time, you know. And I mean, like I said, when you look at this for what it is, yeah, absolutely. He is definitely somebody that, you know, should have listened to his own words, if you ask me. I mean, I would think that had been important, because if he would have stopped for a second and realized, like, you're spewing all of this rhetoric towards these different marginalized groups and the effects that it would have on them, yeah, it's those things have consequences, and you need to take that into consideration. And that's all I have. You know, and so you with your favorite chef, Chef Von Shine, and stay tuned. If you like what I'm saying, then make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you disagree with anything that I'm saying, make sure you drop a comment below. And, you know, once again, I mean, I want to be clear. Like I said, I don't advocate for what had happened to him. It's unfortunate. But I, as a grown man and a father myself, yeah, absolutely. I know that if I step outside of my house and I say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, there will be consequences to my acts. Because won't he do it? Won't he do it?